the morning show with T.R.U.T.H. Listen to it from 7 to 9.
You're the best darn 2 hours in morning radio.
That's it.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Join me, Matt Connarton, weekdays, 4 to 6 p.m. live for a discussion about politics where we put aside labels like liberal and conservative and have a discussion about truth and what's really happening in the world.
This hour on WMNH is proudly sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 171 Londonderry Turnpike in Hooksett. Serving all your employee benefits planning, design and administration, investment and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. They are available at 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
You are listening to WMNH-LP, Manchester's radio, broadcasting at 95.3 megahertz frequency modulation from the top of 1000 Elm Street. Our studios are located at 1045 Elm Street and licensed to Manchester Public Television Service in Manchester, New Hampshire, USA. Contact us by email at WMNH953@gmail.com or through our website at WMNHradio.org.
We're all just grains of sand slipping through the glass. When I got the news that you would pass, it had fallen on deaf ears. I was half asleep, my mind wasn't clear, it hadn't sunk in. I took your mother flowers, she's pouring tears, having to face the worst fears. It hurts still. After all these years, she found your body that morning. I got a warning from a homie that you confided in. Seen you a few days before it, didn't say anything. I felt like it wasn't my place, I should've said something, that was too late. You and my boy just had a kid, how could you just go and leave us like this?
All black, this time the vibe's different. Same gang, same thing. This time the crime's different. Seeing you face down, 2 shots with your spine twitching. And honestly, when I think about it, got me feeling like my mind's different. You would run around town by yourself, dog, how could you? They caught you without your phone on, how could you? You took a couple shots to the dome, dog, how could you? And you left me all by myself, dog, how could you?
Tell me it's not true, not you too. You were one of my closest friends. I couldn't pay respects. There were no condolences, I didn't attend your services. It's like I felt like it wouldn't be real if I avoided them. Then you appeared in this dream I had, told me you were dead. I couldn't deny it then, it f***ed on my head. We hadn't spoken so long, I was at fault, it was all wrong. I can never make amends, we'll never be boys again, there's no going back. You always told me that it would end like this. I would just laugh, like yeah right. Either planned it or predicted it when we wrote last night. I don't know what kind of pain you were dealing with that made that sound better than living did. You were there for me through thick and thin, but where was I? This was something I couldn't prevent, but I didn't even try.
Roll up, all black, this time the vibe's different. Same gang, same thing. This time the crime's different. Seeing you face down, 2 shots with your spine twitching. And honestly, when I think about it, got me feeling like my mind's different. You would run around town by yourself, dog, how could you? They caught you without your phone on, how could you? You took a couple shots to the dome, dog, how could you? And you left me all by myself, dog, how could you?
Wow, that is How Could You by Truth, T.R.U.T.H, who joins us now by phone. At least, hopefully, this is him. Truth, is that you?
Yeah, it's me, man. How you doing, man?
Great. How are you doing, my friend? It's good to talk to you. We've communicated quite a bit on Facebook in the last 24 hours, but it's great to get to have you on the show, and that is such a powerful track. And let's actually, before we get into that, let's talk about what Truth stands for, because it is an acronym. What does it mean?
Okay, so first of all, man, thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, you got it.
Much love to everybody out there in New Hampshire and Manchester. So what Truth stands for is, it's an acronym for True Rhymes, Uniquely Teaching Honesty. That's how anybody finds me. You can look up the Truth in all caps as an acronym, or you can look up True Rhymes, Uniquely Teaching Honesty on any app that you might use. You guys can find that track right now. It's available for anybody to stream right now. My bad, I'm a little shook up, man. The track is
no worries.
It brings up a whole lot of emotion. I've been kind of really emotional all morning. You caught the live feed that I did last night on Facebook.
I did, yeah.
And I kind of just been breaking down, as I kind of told you earlier. The friend of mine that I was speaking about in the first verse, her birthday is actually February 15th, and so it kind of always fucks up Valentine's Day for me, and just in general, it's emotional. I'm about to get a tattoo in honor of her.
Truth, just gotta watch the F word, my friend. I had to hit the dump button.
Oh yeah,
on that.
I'm sorry, man. I forgot we were on.
That's all right. We're on a delay. I caught it, but yeah, no worries. So keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's so yeah, man. Basically, just to get right into it, the friend of mine that I was speaking about in the first verse, her name was, we used to call her Tina Bear. Her name was Christina Flores, and she took her own life almost about 10 years ago. It was in 2009, I believe, or 2010. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, the person that I was speaking about in the second verse, his name was Andrew. He's actually one of the reasons why I even do music today. Andrew Vega, we used to call him MC Money. He was on a lot of my first tracks on my demos when we first started to create music and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he passed away from, unfortunately, he always used to talk about he was going to self-inflict an overdose on himself. And I wasn't really talking to him at the point in time when he passed, so
yeah, I
don't really know exactly what happened, but I'm imagining, he kind of followed through with that.
Wow. Okay. And by the way, I want to say hello to let's see, we have NASCAR Nicey, hi Nicey, and Eric Agnon joining us in the Facebook live chat.
Okay.
So
hello.
Yeah. So you're gonna get some.
Yeah, we're on my Facebook live too, man. Thanks for everybody that's tuning in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, everybody. And so now your second friend, it sounds like it was an overdose, and your friend in the first verse, what was her name again?
Her name was Christina Flores.
Christina, okay. And what
we used to call her Tina Bear, and so
What?
That's how I refer to her most of the time. But yeah, her name was Christina Flores.
Okay. And what, if you don't mind my asking, what happened? What happened to her that led to her what she did?
I mean, I can't necessarily say what she was feeling, but she did reach out. Like I said in the verse, she reached out to somebody she wasn't really close to, that she knew was an acquaintance of mine, or like a good friend of mine that was only an acquaintance of hers.
Sure.
And confided in him, and he reached out and was like, "Hey, man, your homegirl is really hurting right now. I think you kind of need to talk to her." And we met up, and I just really couldn't bring myself to cross that boundary and even bring it up. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And then a week later, she got in a fight with the friend of mine that I referred to. They were together and they had just had a child. They got into a fight one evening. And her mother found her. She had hung herself with a wire hanger. She wanted to make sure that she went. You know what I'm saying? She didn't
my God.
use a regular wire or a rope, something that could snap. She used something that she wasn't going to be able to yank off and think twice about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Hello to Christian Cunard, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. Wow, that's horrific. And her mother is the one who found her?
Her mother is the one that found her, man.
Oh,
and like I said in the verse, I had went out the night before, and I had slept in that day, and my phone was off. So my mom, we all kind of lived in the same neighborhood, and my mom said she was pulling out of her driveway at her home, and she heard like these blood-curdling screams down the road, and so she drove in that direction. It was actually the friend of mine who was dating her at the time. And I guess he had gotten the news, and he was pretty distraught, and he was running down the street, kind of being just crying and yelling and stuff, right? So she picks him up and takes him over there, and then starts to try to get a hold of me. Since my phone was off, she couldn't get a hold of me, and so she went to my father's house where I was living at the time, and like woke me up, and I'm half asleep, and she takes me to go get some flowers and take them to her and everything. And like I said, I really didn't even understand what was going on until I met up with my buddy.
Yeah.
And he kind of tried to confide in me, because I was always like the rock in our circle of friends, and I had never experienced loss like that before. So I didn't really know what to do for him, and he fell apart. And at that point in time, it started to resonate with me that she had even passed away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's something that stuck with me my entire life up until this point.
Oh yeah.
I've written other material about it, but this is the I don't know, just the song bring this story out of me. You know what I'm saying? To basically, the song is about the mourning process that people feel, where they become angry and they can become resentful. Like they can feel like blame, like they feel guilt even, you know what I'm saying? Like that's why I wrote the song as How Could You, because sometimes people feel like, I've dealt with that for a long time, feeling like if I would have told her something, maybe she'd still be alive today.
Right.
And that's why at the end of the second verse, like, people have to know you can't save everybody. Like, no matter how hard you're there for people, like, some people are still gonna always choose what they choose to do, and like there's nothing that you could have done to prevent it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because that also can lead to more. Like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of suicides come from the fact that they experience suicide. Some people will just follow in the footsteps of what they were experiencing. You know what I'm saying? People lose parents to suicide, they end up committing suicide. People lose siblings, and so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, you have to know that you are enough, even if you can't be there and heal somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And also too, the how could you? I mean, what that kind of evokes for me is that feeling of, how could this person? It's a hard thing to articulate. How could this person do this to us, those of us who loved that person? How could they take themselves? How could he or she take him or herself away from us? Like that permanently. And without any, with no recourse. It's a
I
permanent
understand
thing.
completely. Because that me and the buddy of mine that she was dating, we're not close at all anymore. He kind of cut anybody out of his life that reminded him of her. And he definitely went through feelings of like, how could you just leave our daughter like this and everything? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so many things, because I even went through, the reason why we're not friends anymore is because when he was dealing with his period where he was mourning and being neglectful, like, he was kind of not taking care of business and not taking care of his daughter there for a little while. And I even started to, start being like, man, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, how could you not be here for your daughter after she just lost her mother like this? And
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's kind of you have to try to be empathetic with people. Like, I don't know what it's like to have lost a companion like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, this woman was only a friend of mine. She wasn't a lover or anything like that, you know, so
Yeah.
I have no idea what he was going through
Yeah.
to make those decisions to be, you know, absent.
Right. And it's you know, when people are going through what they go through that drives them to that point. Oh, hello, by the way, to John C. Hopwood in the Facebook live chat, and I see Randall Kelly in there as well. So hopefully a lot of people are gonna hear this conversation today, because this is important, and you know, it may help somebody. Yeah, something that I think has been a positive over the past, especially in the last 10 years, at least this is my perception. I'm curious, Truth, if you agree with this, but I feel like a lot of the stigma has kind of been removed around mental illness, because depression is extraordinarily common, whether it's, you know, I mean, this time, we're in a time of year, and I don't know, I mean, I know it's maybe not so much in your part of the country, but it's certainly in the Northeast, you know, there's seasonal depression people suffer from, and then there's, you know, some people have chronic depression, some people aren't prone to depression necessarily unless they go through a traumatic event. I mean, so everyone has experienced depression at one point or another, but some people have it just because they have it. Like me, I struggle with depression. It seems to be in my family. I've had you know, what they, and you'll obviously know this term, you know, suicidal ideations. You know, which is where I've never really talked about this on the air, but you know, where you think about suicide, but I have this, it's kind of odd in a way. I have this sort of built-in safety mechanism in that I'm afraid of death. I'm literally just afraid to die. So even when I
can relate to that, absolutely.
Can you? Okay. Yeah, so even when
I obsess about death a lot, actually.
Okay, yeah. So even when my suicidal ideations are at their worst, I could never harm myself. But I feel like, you know, like I couldn't have said that out loud 10 years ago. You know, and I feel like there's been a shift in our culture where people are able to be more open about mental illness and depression because it is so common. And
I agree with that. You know, I feel like being a male, first of all, I mean, not to say that it's any different for males or females, whatever mental illness you might be, you know, having to face. But just, you know, because there's a stigma around being masculine and stuff like that, I know that it wasn't always easy for the male community to sit there and say, well, I'm vulnerable, or I don't feel sturdy as a man, you know what I'm saying? Or like, I'm feeling down and I don't feel like I can take care of and provide for my family, you know what I'm saying? And
right.
Yeah, I do feel like it is kind of becoming more accepted. Just not actually accepted, like it's not something we necessarily have to accept, as far as like people weren't empathetic to the idea of what was going on with others. Like I was explaining last night, I don't feel like every single person ever has dealt with depression. Like, I didn't understand depression for the longest time. I used to be very insensitive to people who felt down, because I'm a very resilient person, and I recently, in the last few years, started dealing with depression myself. And I understand what you're talking about as far as like, you know, people do deal with seasonal depression. Sometimes people get like the winter blues and stuff like that. And I can understand how, like, you guys being from the Northeast, you guys deal with a lot of snow and
lack of sunlight.
We come from the desert, so like I can't go without the sun very long. I don't even like being in the Northwest where it's all muggy and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I go without sun too long and I start being weird and stuff. So yeah, I can understand how people deal with like different forms of depression, where it could be year long, or it can be moment by moment with most people. You know what I'm saying? I remember that last year I was dealing with so much depression that I literally was battling every single day, not quitting music. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like, I just, like, was getting up there in age, and I've thrown a lot of opportunities away, like, not necessarily on purpose, but I didn't feel like they were right for me.
Sure.
And, you know, some of them were just unfortunate circumstances, and, you know, you can't help but look back and be like, wow, man, like, maybe this isn't really going to happen for me, or maybe my chance came and went, or something, or whatever makes you feel down. Some people, you know, they do, like, this particular thing is, this song is not only for, like, this song isn't for the people who, it's not for the people who committed suicide. This is for the people who are still alive, having to deal with the loss of that person that they loved, and trying to make sure that other people don't inflict harm on themselves, or aren't successful with the, you know, the commitment, and don't leave their family feeling these feelings. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is kind of supposed to be like a eye opener to people who are like, you know, you may feel like you're alone, but you're not, and you sometimes need to just sit back and recognize who is actually there for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm somebody who will get a little emotional, like, if I feel like I'm not being supported by somebody. Even this morning, you know, like, you know, I'm starting to, like, date this girl and stuff like that, and I was being a little too much for her, and, like, I just had to sit back and be like, okay, like, this is a new relationship. Like, we can't expect somebody to be able to carry all of our baggage all at once. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you have to be understanding of other people too. But I know that being in, it's a very sensitive situation to be in, because you don't feel empathetic in the points where you're wanting to harm yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're not looking at your life through that perspective. You're not thinking logically at all. All you're saying is, I want to escape. It's the same way that people use drugs. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Is you're trying to escape whatever you feel is bringing you distress and dis-ease. You know what I'm saying? That's why they call it a mental disease, like a disease, because basically you're trying to find peace within the chemical imbalance that you might be facing, or whatever, you know?
Right. That's another safety valve that I've always had myself. In addition to being afraid of death, I'm also very afraid of drugs. So I've never done any hard drugs.
Well, good for you, because I'm super not afraid of drugs, and I've put myself in very bad, like, I'm not suicidal. Like, I'm not the type of person that, like, will usually inflict harm on myself, like cutting, or like, I don't walk around, I don't carry a firearm or anything like that. You know, I don't own firearms or anything, but it would probably be best if I didn't.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
Just I don't trust myself to have firearms. That's why I don't have them. And
well, that's a good reason.
Yeah, you know, but, like, I find other ways to be a reckless person. Sometimes I will, you know, go out on a binge and drink too much, and then, like, I got body slammed in the middle of the street twice in my underwear right before Thanksgiving, and I wasn't even having a bad night.
Wow.
Like, I wasn't even mad. I was excited and just, like, decided I wanted to take on the world. I got jumped. I got maced that night. You know what I'm saying? I got 86 for tons of clubs in my city.
Jeez.
You know what I'm saying? So it was just like, and then I had been on a destructive pattern since that night, because we had just dropped this record, and I'm having to relive it, and, you know, not everybody in the world knows what you're going through, especially if you're like the strong person, and it's usually the strong people who will commit to suicide, and you wouldn't even know. You know, it's always the happiest people. Nobody expected Robin Williams to kill himself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody expected Chester Bennington to kill himself.
Right, yeah.
You know, they spoke to his wife, and she was like, he was so happy, he was so ready to go on this tour.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now, other people have, like, their different ideas of what happened with those people, because it's a different situation. You know, there's a lot of different things that get involved in those situations.
Anthony Bourdain was another one. Nobody.
Yeah, that was a big surprise, actually.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people weren't really expecting. I didn't never know he had issues like that. You could see Robin Williams wore it in his eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter how vibrant he was, like, you could tell there was pain behind those eyes. Chester, he wore it on his sleeve, being somebody who was vocal. You know what I'm saying? But Bourdain, like, no, I didn't follow him very closely, but he always seemed like a pretty jolly dude. He seemed like he was enjoying his best life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And people don't understand, too. Like, I remember when, this, I mean, obviously this goes back, wow, the early 90s, but, boy, where does the time go? When Kurt Cobain committed suicide, and, people were in disbelief, obviously, and very shocked, but also, I mean, I don't know how old you are, so I don't know how clearly you remember this, but I remember it very vividly. And
I was still pretty small when he died.
Oh, okay. But so I was already an adult, and I can tell you from my perspective, it was like, people who've never experienced depression don't understand that, you can have the world by the proverbial cojones, and have and look like you have everything that anyone could ever want, but if there's something going on neurochemically, all the good things don't necessarily matter if you're depressed. And of course, he was, notoriously depressed. And that's something I try to keep in mind too, is that people who've never experienced depression, I try to be kind of patient with them, because sometimes people who've never experienced it, people who are just naturally not wired to be depressed, they don't understand. They look at people who are depressed as, well, what do you have to be sad about? It's like you're just sad for the hell of it. You've got this great life. What are you sad about? And it's not their fault.
I can understand that, 'cause that's exactly how I used to be.
Yeah.
I used to become very impatient with people who I'm fixing them all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Having a bad day again, having a bad day again, having a bad day again.
Right.
But you're not understanding, like, they're having a bad day again, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And like,
yeah.
And you're not understanding it because you don't have bad days.
Right.
A bad day to you is very minor compared to their worst day. Could be something that you would never be able to deal with. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
exactly. Yeah.
A bad day for them is your worst day. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly. And it's not anybody's fault. Like somebody who doesn't understand that, I can understand from their perspective, someone who's never been depressed, why it doesn't make sense to them. It's
like my buddy's older brother. He deals with his brain just doesn't produce as much serotonin as like the average person's brain.
Yeah.
So he's never really happy. Like he gets his low points, and I'm not sure like if I've never talked to him about like if he's ever experienced depression.
Yeah.
But like we always used to just think he was like just a bummer, and
right.
he kind of is. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't trying to be like rude to us ever. He wasn't necessarily like trying to be a downer. It's just he didn't know, and we didn't know that his brain was operating differently than most of ours were.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like depression does come from different things. Like depression can come from, some people lose their job and that'll create a depression. Some people lose, their loved one, or they end a relationship, or, just some sort of something that's devastating to you. Like when I was younger, my uncle told me, because he's a musician too, he was like, one thing that will connect every single person in the world is pain. Everybody feels pain.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think that's another thing that people forget, is that, we get caught up in being in America. We get caught up in being Americans, where we're just like, this is America, and everybody's like so worried about what Donald Trump's doing, and oh my goodness, the government shutdown. Is like, you've never experienced like real poverty. Like, you've never experienced what people in a third world country are dealing with. Who deals with depression out there?
Mm-hmm.
Who in Africa who's starving out there is dealing with depression? Who in the Middle East who's lost all their family because of a bombing is dealing with depression?
Mm-hmm.
Or who's committing suicide in these other places?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like, that's what I'm really trying to do, is get people to come together and stop making it about gender or race or culture at all, because at the end of the day, we all breathe oxygen. None of us can operate without oxygen coming into our lungs.
Yeah.
We can't operate without water or food. And we need to start to understand that the only way we're going to stop hurting ourselves and hurting other people, because not all suicides are self-inflicted. Sometimes they're murder-suicides. You know, like,
Right.
I had a buddy of mine here. I'm not even close to this dude. I met him randomly outside of a concert one night. I gave him a ride, and he hits me up one day, and he's kind of like, you want to hang out? I was like, sure. He shows up. He's acting weird. I'm not really understanding what's going on with him, and he's kind of getting on my nerves, you know, because I don't
Yeah.
even know this dude, and he's kind of being, like, weird with my people. Like, he needed somebody to confide in, but he wasn't trying to confide in the whole room.
Yeah.
So he ends up getting me to a point where I needed to leave, so he was like, I'll give you a ride today somewhere, blah, 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 blah. So I get in the car. He sits down and tells me that his sister's husband murdered his mom, his father, his little brother, nearly murdered his sister who was married to him, and then killed himself.
Oh, my God.
And, like,
wow.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And, like, I'm sitting there trying to be as empathetic as possible with him in this situation.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's drinking and he's driving, and, like I said, I'm pretty reckless, so I'm not really, like tripping on him.
Yeah.
Like, I know that he's having a hard day.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Yeah,
he's
no
giving
kidding.
me this ride, and he starts to kind of open up to me, and as he's opening up to me, he starts to put my life in jeopardy. And I had to check him and be like, look, dog, I'm not going to tell you that you're ever going to get over this. That's devastating. You just lost your whole family.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's, wow.
I don't even know how to comprehend that. And that's something that, like, is one of my greatest fears in the world. Is when I was a child, I wasn't even able to sleep over at friends' houses. I'd always call my parents to pick me up in the middle of the night because I would get these haunting feelings that they were going to be in danger.
Really?
You know?
Huh.
Yeah, like, I suffer from, like, paranoia and stuff like that.
Okay.
And paranoid delusions. Like, we could go into the extremities of my, like, I'm about to start to become a stand-up comedian because all of the stories that I tell people are so hilarious after the fact, after you look at it through rationale, like, you know, perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
That people are like, that's crazy that your imagination even works like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll start trying to connect dots that don't connect together. And, like, it's humongous conspiracies come together and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, so yeah, I can understand, like, that it's not something I could even understand what that dude is going through. But we're in the car, and I was like, I'm not going to tell you to stay alive. Like, I'm going to tell you that life is worth living for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what to do. But the moment you start putting my life in jeopardy, then we have a problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. And how did he respond to that when you said that to him?
I think he appreciated me checking him like that because I don't even think he really wanted to take himself out or anything. It's just when you deal with something that's such a tragic event like that, I don't even know what's the word for that. What's worse than tragedy? What's worse than
I
you
know
what I'm saying? Like,
no, I know what you mean. Yeah, tragedy doesn't seem like a strong enough word. It's like, wow.
I'm like, that doesn't describe what I feel this man is going through, man. And sorry to laugh. It's just. You know, I use humor as a form of therapy. Like, I'm creating a brand. I've created a brand that's developing programs to help with, you know, awareness for mental illness and amongst other things, you know, that it all could kind of be put under the umbrella of mental illness, but sometimes people aren't necessarily dealing with mental illness. And you know, we're trying to help the homeless, and we're trying to help folks that are dealing with, like, alcohol and drug problems and stuff like that. But suicide awareness is something that has always been something that I've really kind of been passionate about since my first experience with it. Now, the other one was just like I said, I didn't go to my homie's funeral, and I had a dream, and he came to me. And I was like, you know, you're in a dream. I'm a vivid dreamer, you know, like a lucid dreamer. And so, like, I'm aware in my dreams. Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, oh man, it's good to see you, la, la, la. Like, they trying to tell me that you died. And he's like, I was like, did you die? And he's like, yes. You know?
Wow.
And
are you aware that when you say you're a lucid dreamer, are you aware that you're actually dreaming? or is it more just that you're kind of in control of your dream, but you don't necessarily know that you're dreaming?
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends, actually, because, like, sometimes I'm not aware I'm actually in a dream. I'm just kind of conscious, like, that.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I'm conscious in the moment how you would be, like, in a, and then you look back, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had this weird dream one time where I was, I don't know if you're familiar with the rapper Logic,
yes.
but I was, like, at this person's house arguing with him about something, and then somebody that was supposed to be part of his, like, entourage turns to me and tells me I'm going to make it, and I, like, laugh, like, yeah, I know, like, arrogant, right? And, like, I walk out of the house, and I end up, like, getting into a car, and this is where you, if you were aware that you were dreaming, would be like, this is definitely a dream, because I'm, like, in a diesel truck, kind of like, I guess you would say, like, in a monster truck arena type of situation where I'm, like, ramping the car, and it's getting way too much, like, air for reality, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at some point, like, I'm losing control of the vehicle and die and wake up, and I'm, like, riding this black horse, and, like, my mom's there, and I'm like, oh, my God, did I die?
Yeah.
And I wake up.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
And so, like, in that particular situation, it was like I was aware of whatever I felt like that message I was receiving in the dream was, that, like, you're going to make it, keep going.
Interesting.
Message. I was like, yeah, like, okay. But I wasn't in control, meaning, like, there are some points in time where I can make what I want happen in the dream.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, maybe you're doing something, and, like, in the dream, police show up, and you're like, no, this is a dream. I don't have to worry about that. This is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Or other times I'm just kind of really in the moment, feeling it like it's real life.
Yeah.
And then I wake up, and I'm like, oh, wow, that wasn't real. Like, I dream about meeting celebrities a lot.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? I had a dream that I was hanging out with Tech-9 one night. I've had a couple of dreams about that. But recently I had a dream that I was hanging out with Tech-9, and, like, he was having a bad night or something, and was, like, trying to have me go out with him to drink or something.
Yeah.
And that was one of the dreams where I was conscious.
Oh, okay.
Where I was like, oh, my God, I'm around Tech-9. Bro, you need to listen to my music. Bro, you need to listen to my music. And it's like, it's a dream. I'm not getting that. I'm not actually getting this opportunity right now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's a nice dream, though. It's a good dream.
It was a cool dream. Yeah. I mean, they're interesting stories to talk about afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. So, tell me about. I want to ask you this about the song. Getting back to how could you? I think I had said this to you online. It's unique in that I don't think I've heard anything quite like it. At least not for a long time. If I have, I mean, it's kind of like a fusion of rock and hip hop in the sense that there's rapping and there's guitars, but it's also kind of on its own island in a way. Like, I can't think of anything that sounds...
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that, because I've been, like, trying to figure out where to market it towards, and like, I'm not marketing it only towards the, like, you know, I guess you would say, like, the Limp Bizkits, or, you know, those, like, rap metal groups that were all coming out in the late 90s and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it only fits in that category. I feel like it's a lot more emotional. I'm like, wow, I think that, like, real actual fans of rock and metal could listen to this song and relate to it and get over the fact that I'm kind of rapping, but it's not like a real hip-hoppy type of song. It doesn't have a lot of bounce, and it doesn't and then the chorus, you know, shout out, man, I'm so sorry for not even shouting them out yet, but shout out to Heathen, who did the screams, and Chopper Manhattan. Those are artists that I work with. I represent Chopper. He has a band called Saturday Night Riot. They're a two-piece. They kind of do, like, southern rock mixed with, like real fast rap and stuff. They're
interesting,
like, an amazing group.
Ooh.
And so, like, I feel like he always has like a unique approach to the vocals. That's why I asked him to be on it.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of trying to hit that, like, I hadn't really ever done anything that was mixed with rock. And I wanted to try to I'm always trying to figure out how to do something that stands out. Like, I don't ever like to emulate people's sound. I'm never, you know, I do multiple different styles, but I'm not ever trying to, like, I want to sound as, like, sonically valuable as everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I want the sound quality to be as good as everybody else's music.
Right.
But I don't want it to sound like them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, which I think is smart. You know, a lot of people try to chase trends and whatnot, but the problem with that is by the time you have something that you're ready to put out there, if you're chasing a trend, the trend is
It could
already
be dying already.
right. It's already and it's funny too when I'm talking about that with people. I always go back to the Kurt Cobain example again. Imagine if because you might be too young to really, like I said, I was already an adult when all this happened, but when Nirvana,
people say that he would have wrote better music. People say they don't know if he had anything else in him.
well, the thing is when Nirvana really kind of exploded, it killed what we often refer to as hair metal, kind of overnight.
Oh yeah.
And I always say, well, imagine if Kurt Cobain had listened to whomever might have told him, no, you should write some hair metal songs because that's what's popular right now. And then Nirvana never would have happened. And so by doing what he wanted to do, he changed the world. And it was quick too. It was, I mean, it happened.
No, I mean, I
overnight.
wasn't necessarily like conscious as a person, but I'm a student of like music history.
Okay.
And so, I used to sit around and watch like the VH1 documentaries of like people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of documentaries about Kurt Cobain. So like I'm a little familiar with like the sensation they bring upon the world when they decided to like step out of the box and do what they did.
Oh, yeah.
Which I admire for sure,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a track too, like How Could You? I mean, obviously, I think that's something that I can definitely imagine a lot of rock oriented stations playing in the rock format. It's hard to the urban format.
You're a rock station, correct?
Well,
I think that was the one thing I didn't ask.
Well, here at WMNH, I mean, there's some rock. It's actually kind of
Or
a
you
mix.
guys multi-genre?
Yeah, it's kind of multi-genre. Plus, there's
cool.
this is more of a talk show, and the morning show's more of a talk show.
Okay.
Although there's some music, but it's hard to like with a song like that. It's hard to really infiltrate urban stations if you have guitars in there. Urban stations that play hip hop are like scared away for some reason.
Yeah, they're not gonna play that record. They're gonna hear guitars and screams in there, and they're gonna be like, "Get out of here, kid."
Right. But
which is cool.
Yeah,
which is cool. I like that actually because I don't really, man. You know what? I've never really fit in very well with a lot of people. Everybody says that I don't know. Like, I did my best to create my own sound. So now that I have my own sound, I'm dealing with the catch-22 of now you have to be willing to be brave enough to present something that they haven't already heard before.
Right.
So
yeah,
you deal with a lot of like, a lot of people tell me that I sound like this dude or I sound like that dude, and I can see where like people have told me that I sound like B Real from Cypress Hill, which I don't hear, but like that's a compliment.
Interesting.
I like that. You know what I'm saying? Like there ain't nothing wrong with that. Shout out B Real, man. I'd love to work with him.
Right. No doubt. Yeah. And actually, Cypress Hill, they were able to penetrate both urban and rock stations.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I use that reference right there.
Yeah. No, and I can imagine this song on a lot of modern rock stations because you have like Papa Roach just as one example. A band that you'll hear on a modern rock station, and Jacoby Shaddix does do some rapping, so it's or Rage Against the Machine if you want to go back a ways. So there's a
lot of dudes who come close to being like, honestly, I could tell you that Tang Nine did this song with Corey Taylor from Slipknot a couple years ago, and Corey Taylor really came and he basically has a real rap style.
Yeah,
because he's such an aggressive like vocalist. And like when he does break it down and become melodic, like he mixes it all up real well. But he gets real, like as far as the delivery of lyrics, just like an MC would, because MCs like being a vocalist, because I do not only like hip hop vocals, but I do reggae vocals, and I'm just starting to get into. Like everybody's gonna hate me for it because I grew up like a real hardcore like backpack hip hop kid.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna start doing the new age like auto tune, singy stuff. Like I'm into it. You know what I'm saying? I like to roll with the times. I'm not somebody.
Sure.
I'm not. There was a like big old debate between there was a big rap battle between like Eminem and MGK just recently, and like I felt like that was cool for like the rappity rap part of hip hop, which
I enjoyed it.
Love.
Yeah, yeah.
But I like melodies, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like even when I listen to rock music, I don't always listen to like the most hardcore, like let's just play hard and fast type of. I like it definitely like hard, and I definitely like it like crazy, but I always like it to be able to break down and be beautiful again. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I like rock to be a beautiful, destructive thing, not necessarily just all just hellfire.
Right. Yeah. You like some melody in there and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably why I came out with a melodic rock tone. If I was gonna blend genres before I ever came out with like a real hard, like tough, like rock tone, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which we'll
right.
definitely be doing like soon. We definitely will be continuing to like work with rock tones and everything like that. Like I love rock and roll. I love all different forms of rock music, punk rock music. Like I was outside of a Descendants show when I was getting body slammed that night.
Oh,
you know
no kidding.
like, yeah. Like actually, shout out to the drummer from what's his name, Tom or something like that. I don't remember. Dave.
I don't know.
Maybe Dave. Man, I should remember that because he put me on the guest list. That's why I was so excited. I was like, puts me on the guest list. I'm in there. My uncle's the one that introduced me to the band.
Yeah.
And so they, you know, I bring him to the show as my plus one. And so Clean Sheets is like the only song I really liked from them.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I'm the one that wrote that song. So like that was the craziest, coolest experience to, you know, meet him and him be the person that wrote the song that I like. Cause I don't really listen to them very closely and stuff, but that's the song that I always like loved and stuff since I was a kid.
Oh, that's cool.
And you know, I got to know him a little bit. He was like, the only reason I'm really like putting you on the guest list is because I had like a girlfriend out here, and where I stay is Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah.
We call it the land of punk rock and dead girls. You know what I'm saying?
Huh.
Like there was a poet that wrote a poem about Albuquerque called "The Land of Punk Rock and Dead Girls," and it
okay.
touched me one night. We were like, we went to Flagstaff, Arizona. He was a slam poet that was on tour, and we like took him to Flagstaff, Arizona. He was kind of like doing like the traveler type of thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Just getting rides where he could and hopping buses and doing whatever he could and stuff. And I've actually done that before. I like hitchhiked on Vans Warped Tour.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, wow.
In 2016, and then I got myself like a placement on Vans Warped Tour, but I got kicked off.
Why?
So.
That sounds like a good story.
I wish it was like some crazy interesting story, but it was just like a big misunderstanding. Like I was hosting a stage in the parking lot, and I'm trying to get this nonprofit off of the ground, and so I was like having people make donations so that they could get like performance slots and stuff, and somebody got a little overzealous, and it unfortunately turned out that like, you know, shout out to Kevin Lyman, like he's a cool dude. I met him. I actually almost died on the tour the first year. Like I got into a car accident. Like I was basically like helping like vendors drive.
Yeah.
And one vendor fell asleep at the wheel, slams into the back of a semi. Like he woke up right before he slammed into it, so he like slams on the brakes. We still hit. I wake up.
Wow.
Windshield's all cracked. It looks like I'm in like butterfly effect. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's going on?
That's a hell of a way to wake up. Jeez.
Yeah, man. And then we like, luckily, like nothing happened to us. You know.
Yeah.
And like the semi just left. Like it acted like it didn't even feel it. You
really?
know what I'm saying?
Oh, no kidding.
Luckily, somebody else was on the same highway that I was driving for the night before and came and picked me up. But yeah, you know, it was just unfortunate circumstance. His daughter and I like share a name. Her last name is my first name, and somebody went over there and was like, "Oh, I paid this person to like get in here." It became a big old like fiasco and everything.
Oh,
and he just kind of asked me to, you know, to leave the tour and stuff. And so you know, that it is what it is, and that's what I'm saying is like I came home from that situation and went into one of the darkest depressions that I've ever been in.
Yeah.
But it also sprang something great because what it taught me is I had thought I had made it already, and we were completely unprepared to be on that tour.
Yeah.
We didn't have any promotional items or anything. Like, I was just winging it, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, you know, like, you get this, like, idea in your head that, like, just because you're like, oh, man, like, I'm cool, I'm over here like hanging out with all these like rock star bands and stuff like that. We're on this tour, and you think that you've made it and you haven't. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
and so, like,
right.
it brought me home and put me in a dark place, but to fight through the darkness, because that's what I do. That's usually what keeps me out of a dark place. Is I wrote the "How Could You" song with anger and with screams because that's what gets me through the day.
Yeah.
People will always be like, "How come you're so angry?" And I'm like, because sometimes you need fire to get you through. Like, trains were ran off of coal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you need that sometimes. You need to be able to push yourself through. Like, sometimes you just need to develop. Like, that's what our programs are supposed to be about. The My Kind of Therapy, so it's hashtag MKOT. If you look that up on YouTube, it originally was just a way that I was trying to, like, funnel people to our music videos and our content. You can find Saturday Night Riot there. They have videos and stuff.
Yeah, I got to check
And,
them out. Yeah, definitely.
You know, but now, like I said, I'm not afraid of drugs, bro. So I snorted a rail of meth and dropped acid and decided, like, because I had to go to this festival in California, and I drove through, like, Arizona thinking that I was dead and on an endless highway. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And then got this premonition telling me that I needed to turn this brand into something that was going to help people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we had already started to create, like, a clothing line. Like, you can get hashtag MKOT merch and stuff like that. If people are interested in getting hoodies, we're going to be doing a tour in September for Suicide Awareness Month. It's going to be themed around How Could You. We're going to have, I just designed some crew socks that come with the semicolon. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with that symbol. I wasn't actually even very familiar with it.
No.
But, there was somebody who committed suicide in our circle that I wasn't very close with.
Okay.
When I was younger, that affected somebody who was like my best friend.
Yeah.
And he got the semicolon tattooed on himself, like, real big. And he was the one that explained to me that's what that was about, right? And so, like, we decided to go ahead and put the semicolon on the hoodies and use it as just the basic, like, cover for the track, because what it means is the semicolon is where you would have decided to end, but you continued. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, like, for people that aren't aware of what the symbolism behind the semicolon is,
that's interesting.
It's like you basically decided to continue. You know what I'm saying? And that's what at the bottom of everything.
Cool. Huh.
That's what we're trying to make people feel like. You know, I had like a 17-year-old kid in the Czech Republic hit me up one day and tell me that I helped him get through the day, and he was feeling like, you know, he wanted to do harm upon himself, and the music kept him through that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
And that's ultimately, like, at the end of the day, it's not about money. It's not about awards or accolades or publicity or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to give. So, like, if you go and get hoodies and apparel, I try to give a percentage of the money that we're raising from all of this merchandise to a program that was already in existence, like whatever, you know, they have like the National Suicide Awareness programs that you can donate to and stuff. But the company that we were using to distribute the merchandise didn't want to have anything to do with the suicide stuff.
Really?
And so, like,
why is that?
Every time I would try to produce an item, like, they just kept getting flagged. And I basically was just like, we still need to do this.
Yeah.
But we're going to just go ahead and give a portion of the money to one of these funds after, you know, we raise whatever money we raise for the tour and do the tour and everything. Like, you know, after the tour, whatever we raise from merchandise and from touring, and, you know, we're going to be giving back to some of these programs until we can start developing the programs that we're trying to develop for ourselves. You know what I'm saying, to be able to give back to people. Like, I'm trying to make people feel like there's a healthy way for them to express themselves, even if it's through pain. Right, because my sister, right, she deals with a lot of stuff herself, depression and stuff like that. And, you know, when I was 18, she came by my mom's house, and she was like, just having a hard day, you know what I'm saying? And she was like wanting to harm herself and stuff like that. And she was, you know, she used to like to burn or something like that. I'm not really sure what she used to do, but I know that she used to kind of like inflict pain on herself.
Yeah, people do that,
and,
burning and cutting and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
you know, but like I try to advocate for the healthy expressions. Like you know, if you want to go and get piercings, if you want body modifications, I'll even go as far as saying like I imagine that it's very therapeutic for the people who like to suspend themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But do it in an atmosphere that's controlled, and do it in a place where you like aren't going to take it too far.
Right. Where you're not going to end up
like,
harming yourself.
Tattoo artists that are like, we ain't really trying to give you a tattoo if you all faded, man, because we don't want to hurt you.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? We don't want you to hurt yourself and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like that's what we're really trying to do is like some things that people feel are taboo. We want them to be able to feel a little bit more okay with it. Like you said, it's becoming something that we're able to do, like able to express more. You know what I'm saying? People are able to say, yeah, I do feel depressed, or I do have anxiety, or I may be bipolar, or I may suffer from schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder or some other personality disorder or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because my sister is actually in the mental health field, and she's helping me develop all of these programs. She was the one that told me that we should probably put everything under the umbrella of mental health.
Right.
But I feel like some of these things are separate issues, you know what I'm saying? I do know that like a lot of our homeless population are people who are dealing with mental illness.
Oh, absolutely.
I do know that a lot of people who are dealing with drug and alcohol problems are dealing with mental illness, and they're trying to medicate themselves.
They self-medicate,
Some of these things are just lubricant for our mental illness to be worse.
Right.
I swear to God, we were getting drunk the day that we filmed the music video, and like I'm so glad that I have my team around me, because I thought that day was going to be a bad day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it ended up being a really good day, because me and my homie, like even the dude who was shooting the video, he was like, look, guys, you guys are doing really great, but you need to like stop joking around, because you guys won't stop smiling in these shots. It's a sad song.
I can imagine where that would be an issue. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And I was actually a little disappointed. I thought that we might have caught a better footage of my actual emotions rather than I'm not necessarily an actor. I've been interested in acting before and stuff, but I would never say that I'm necessarily like the greatest actor or anything like that. But I could tell it was bad acting.
Yeah, well,
in the video. I'll just be honest. You know, I don't know if other people can tell.
Yeah.
Somebody tried to tell me, they were like, "It looks so genuine." I'm like, maybe I just don't like. I look like a fat John Mayer with a beard. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those shots where I was crying. I had the John Mayer bird mouth and stuff. Like, is that sexy? I don't know.
I gotta
Other
watch
women
that
like
now.
it.
Is the video up on YouTube? Because I haven't seen the video yet.
The video is going to be available on YouTube midnight tonight.
Oh, cool.
We've had a little trouble. You know, like I said, I've been on a rampage, and so
well, see,
I ended up.
I'm really curious to see it now.
Unfortunate circumstances made it so that I couldn't upload the video for a while.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we're gonna have it up by midnight tonight. Just look up #MKOT. You guys will be able to watch it. You can watch it on Facebook now.
Yeah.
If you go to the Truth page, it's just Truth with dots in between the letters, just capital T, all the rest are lowercase.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Definitely will be up by midnight tonight.
Oh, very cool, very cool. I'm gonna look for that.
And it's a way better version too, because the version that we have on Facebook is kind of is low quality. I uploaded it from my cell phone, so the version that everybody's seen so far doesn't even give the video justice. Shout out to RJ T.R.U.T.H for filming the video for us. You know what I'm saying? And he decided to do it like this. And let me thank you again, man, because you know to get on radio is like a very difficult thing sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, like, I don't know when it's actually ever easy. This wasn't even easy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have dealt with trauma, and we're just trying to support each other in this world. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and I appreciate you doing that, man, because realistically, it helped me be able to present this message to people. Maybe there's somebody out there that was having a bad day. We might have helped somebody today, man, and that's really what it's all about.
Exactly, absolutely, and I would say too, and I'm really glad Jenny connected with you online and hooked us up. And
yeah, absolutely, thank you to Jenny, and definitely I'm gonna get you guys those hoodies as soon as possible.
Oh, wonderful. No,
yeah, absolutely.
that's great.
You know, probably by the end of the month.
Oh,
You know what I'm
sweet.
saying?
Yeah. And I think, by the way, too, I would just say before we wrap up, I think that, I mean, personally, I think the best way to deal with anything negative, whether it's, suicide or depression and all these things, is to be creative. And,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. I would agree with that.
That's what I think is really wonderful about this track that we played earlier. And, we're gonna in a moment. You've been very generous with your time, Truth, and I appreciate it. We're gonna finish up with.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm gonna play this other track of yours that I found online called Monsters that I really, really love. And before we do that, and before we finish up, what can you tell us about this song? Anything we should know about it?
So this was actually a very interesting song that I wrote. So like the hook obviously like really builds everything up and puts it all together. And so like when I was writing around what the feeling, because that's how I write music, is I'm used to getting already composed music and writing around the feeling that the composer was trying to like express.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is this telling me? You know what I'm saying? So I'm taking the woman's vocals, because that track was, oh man, forgive me, I'm terrible. I tell you, like, somebody told me it was depressing. They were like, do you remember this? Do you remember that? Like, we grew up together. I was like, I don't remember it. I'm sorry. But, Rel. I'm thinking it's R-E-L-L-E.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's the artist that released the original vocals. And so the producer, Syndrome, shout out to Syndrome, he actually made both beats.
Okay.
He's from Canada, I believe.
Oh.
I don't really know him personally. I just, like, buy his work or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like I was taking whatever he had taken from her and made and trying to like relate it to myself. And at that point I wrote that song like right after we got kicked off of the Vans tour or something like that.
Okay.
And so like
Yeah.
I was just really sitting there like I really do have like outrageous thoughts, man. And so when I'm sitting there like feeling like I can feel them creep, lurking in my dreams. Like I told you guys about my dreams. Like my dreams are kind of horrifying and stuff. Like I really have a really morbid thought process. That's why I connect to like metal and stuff. Like metal to me is horror.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I connect to horror. I don't even like horror movies. Like I deal with a lot of like ill spirituality and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so like I've just recently stopped trying to allow a lot of things. That's why I was real eerie about putting out these songs too, because I work for, benevolent forces in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I put that word in the song because like there's a part of me that really is the worst person in the world. Like this girl that I'm talking to, she's amazing. She's the greatest person in the world. I'm not promising her the world or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest, but like as much as I'm in love with her, like I probably have never loved anybody else as much as I love this girl.
Wow.
Like I was talking to my first love about her for the last 2 days. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And like I probably would still. You know what I'm saying? I can't say that I would be somebody who wouldn't be susceptible to like temptation or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like so, I talk in the song about how. No matter how much love I get, I lust for more flesh. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a story out there about feeding. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a Native American like tale or something like that about like there's 2 different wolves that everybody has inside of them, and you either feed the good wolf and you feed the bad wolf. And like sometimes you feed the bad wolf,
right?
And that's what kills you. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
Sometimes I let my demons get the best of me, and I'll go out and I say, in the song, I like to binge. You know what I'm saying? Binge for consumption.
Right.
And like, I'm on the verge of destruction. Binge for consumption. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like those things are real. I didn't just like rhyme a bunch of words together. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Right. No, I know.
There are some things that I wish
mean,
not to share with the world. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a song called "You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You," and there was something that happened. Like I really probably am a real fucking psycho, bro.
You gotta watch it, dude.
Like I'm a real fucking problem in this world.
All right,
But
we gotta Truth. We gotta let you go because you keep swearing, and we gotta wrap up the segment anyway.
Oh, I'm so sorry, dog. I forgot.
That's all right. I caught it, but we do need to go. So we're gonna hit this track, Monsters. I'm really eager to share this with everybody, and keep up the great work.
Hey, man, thank you so much. I apologize, man. I apologize so much for the cursing and stuff, man.
No worries. I know it was an accident, but
I've been doing internet radio for the last, everybody's on internet radio these days, so I forgot we was on Clear Channel.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Don't worry about it. But and we will have you back. But like I said, you've been very generous with your time, and I can't wait to see that video.
Let's talk more later. I know you got to get back to the show. Thank you so much for the opportunity, man.
Yep.
Hit me later whenever you got some time, and we'll talk about. I'll let you know when I ordered those garments so that you can be expecting them.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. No, we're looking forward to that. Thank you. All right, brother.
Cool,
all right. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
All right,
Good
Truth.
day, man.
All right, bye-bye. All right, so Truth leaves us, and we're going to listen to this track. This is called Monsters.
In my dreams, they attack me when I sleep. They appear in many forms, trying to trap me in deceit. Every time they speak, I know it's a lie. I gotta clear my mind. They try to convince me that I've already hit my peak, or I'll never rise to the occasion. Like I'll never reach my destination. I see through the manipulation. They know what I crave. I'm addicted to destruction, vengeful consumption. I'm always on the verge of erupting. The clock's ticking. I'm strapped with explosives. I'm becoming more vexed. I'm trying to conceal this corrupted cerebral cortex. No matter how much love I get, I lust for more flesh. They want all of my focus. They always trying to hold me back, but I'm trying to progress. How do I escape the voices? They're trying to bury me alive. They're in desperate need of the doctor, but they stuck in high. There's monsters stuck in your head. Monsters under your bed. We are monsters. Oh, we are monsters. Oh. I'm stricken with demonic forces, visions of rotten corpses, depictions of four figures riding horses. I ain't talking Porsches, my brain's sick. Something's wrong with my psyche. It's frightening. It might be surprising the most. Maybe it's best if you don't get close. He's aiming right for your throats. Don't get it misunderstood. He's trying to strip you of all that's good. That's his only plan. He's not a mortal man. He's a creature that dwells in the shadows, heartless and shallow, with an evil scowl. All like he devours, he feeds on your fear. He loves when you're feeling doubtful. He wants you to lose control. He's trying to suck every bit of joy out your soul. He wants you to wither away all alone, just a pile of bones, lifeless and cold. To haunt you, there's no escape.